Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. First half of the show, we had head coach Todd Bowles. Now I am so excited to be joined by wide receiver coach Bryan McClendon. B-Mac, thanks for being with us.
No problem. Glad to be here.
And you got a victory Monday and going into the bye week. I mean,
right.
The best of all days.
That is hard to beat. That
Yeah.
is for sure hard to beat. And you finally in this business, you get a Monday that feels like a Monday sometimes, and even more so on the weekend. You get a Friday that feels like a Friday, and a Saturday feels like a Saturday, which you don't typically get.
No, you don't. And man, to get a win over a division opponent going into it, that is the perfect way. Everybody's happy. Everybody gets to skip off into the bye week happy as clams.
It definitely beats the alternative.
Yeah, tell me just what this win felt like it meant for the record, the vibes, the division opponent, all of those factors.
Yeah, I think any win that you feel like that you get, man, those are special. But to get those over that division opponent, somebody that those wins kind of stack up and they kind of multiply, and conversely, losses can do the same thing once you get a little bit later into the season. So just to go out there, man, and go into the bye 6-2, I think everyone's pretty happy, and even the two that you felt like you could have gotten a little bit more in those areas too. But all those wins, man, they feel good, and like I said, it just beats the alternative.
When I was talking to Mecca in his show, I jokingly asked him if he felt like to step in Mike's shoes, he needed to start a fight in New Orleans, if that was part of the responsibilities. When you first got here, had you heard about this rivalry overall, and then specifically the Mike Evans component?
Well, I knew, I vaguely knew of it. Vaguely knew of it. And actually, my son, who's 8 years old now, he was 7 at the time. He showed me a video on YouTube of Mike and in the corner kind of going at it. And so I quickly asked Mike, I was like, hey man, what do you guys got
what
going?
We got going on?
Hey, what do you guys got going on here? And then he kind of gave me a brief history lesson on it also. So I did know that there was that's a special game. It's a special game here. And like I said, it being a team that you see twice a year, once at their place, once at ours, man, I think that kind of heightens the intensity of it. And they're two good football teams. So like I said, just got to make sure, man, that you keep the main thing when going into that, and not get too hyped up, and understanding right now, man, emotion's only going to last so long that you got to go out there and be able to execute on a down-to-down basis. I
know that really all that matters is whether or not you get the win. Doesn't really matter how you get there, but I'm sure the offense would have liked a little bit quicker start coming out the blocks. So what was sort of the struggle, especially that first half, Baker only having 50 yards and just kind of, basically all your wide receivers only having one catch each and going into halftime. What was kind of the struggle?
Well, I won't say so much a struggle. I think it's kind of how the game fell a little bit. Obviously, you would like to put together some drives where you could stay, you could stay on the field a little bit more. So, being a little bit more effective on first and second down to kind of get a little bit more of those manageable third downs. And I think we had a couple false starts and everything else that didn't help the cause either. So, it was enough to go around that kind of compounded things, and obviously that first half just wasn't the cleanest game for us offensively. And when you do that in a hostile environment versus a good team, then you normally, production isn't normally great. And so, the thing is, you just try to fix the stuff that you can control. And I thought we did a good job of that, and coming out and being able to get ahead of it a little bit in the second half. Yeah,
I was going to ask what did seem to shift at halftime, knowing that, like I said, Baker had 50 yards in the first half. We had 45 on that first drive coming out, and I imagine as coaches, you kind of swell with pride when there's a distinct difference of you go into halftime and you come out of it. That's got to make you guys feel good about whatever happened in there at halftime. So what seemed to kind of click a little better?
Well, you preach in there starting fast, and when you say start fast, that doesn't just mean at the beginning of the game, right? And so to have the ability to get the ball, and it's a really, really, really big drive, the first drive that you get right after halftime. So, to be able to go down, like you said, however it was, whether it's running, whether it's passing, to go down there and be able to get points in that first drive, I felt like it was huge for us right now as a team.
Yeah, and then I know also Emeka and Baker, we saw early in the season, it was like that just couldn't miss. Last couple games, few more misconnections. How does it feel like that's looking at this point, and some of the ways that might have shifted? How much is it based on no Mike, no Chris?
Yeah,
a little bit different there?
I think it's a little bit more of just the dynamic of those two. And, we had different weapons, offensively going into the season. And so, his role had kind of changed, and it's out of necessity, and just because, you know, you have a lack of some of those people that were out there with him. When I'm saying him, I mean Emeka. And so, like I said, man, you know, so in saying that, man, you see how people play us right now will be a little bit different, and play him will be a little bit different over there as well. So it's just kind of morphing into a different role right now for him. Which I feel like is good. I feel like he's taking it. He's taking it just like as you imagine he would. And but you know, it's, like I said, it's not just an adjustment just for Emeka or Baker's. You know, for us as coaches, for everybody else out there, just because of, you know, the personnel that's changed around those two also.
We're talking to wide receiver coach Bryan McClendon. So tell me, for you, how much do you just find yourself sitting there thinking, like, what you could have if everyone was healthy out there at one time, like what this could look like when you're watching in training camp and thinking and dreaming about this? I mean, as a wide receiver coach, I imagine you're just like, oh, this is going to be so cool.
Sure. Well, to be honest with you, you can't get caught up in that. You really can't, because the only thing right now that you'll be doing is working yourself up for stuff that you can have zero control over, right? And so all you have to do, man, is all I do is I just dive into the guys that are available and try to make sure, man, that I'm doing everything I can to make sure that those guys can go out there and be successful. So it would be nice to be able to have all the healthy bodies and everything else in there that's sitting in those seats. But like I said, if you sit up there, if I sit up there and concerning myself with that on a down-to-down basis, or everyday basis, I should say, then I feel like I'll be cheating the guys right now that are going out there and are able to play. So, you know, obviously, man, you're supporting everybody in the room in any type of way that you can, whether they're playing or whether they're not. But, you know, it's really just diving into the guys that are playing and making sure I'm doing everything I can do as a coach to give those guys some success, too.
I felt like Mike, you know, people always, once you get to a certain age, like, oh, is this the year it starts going down? I just kept hearing that he looked better than ever in training camp and preseason. And what did you see during those times, and when he has been healthy playing, the level Mike was still at this point in his career?
Yeah, it was, you know, he took it upon himself to come into camp in as good a shape as he possibly could. And I think he did a great job of that. And so early in camp, you know, it was just, you saw the fruits of his labor from the offseason and everything else that he had put into it. So he was moving great, moving fast, was able to recover well, go out there and play fast for an extended period of time. And like I said, man, was just playing on balance. He just looked really, really good. And so you just hate these unfortunate circumstances right now, man, that's kind of hit him. And it's just been an unfortunate year as far as that goes. But I was talking to him actually earlier today, and it was just, you know, and he takes it exactly how you think he would. I mean, he's just like, hey, you know, nobody's immune to it. This is the game, and which is exactly how you should take it, and just know and understand. Let's just dive into what we can do today to get back as full speed as we possibly can whenever that time is.
I know that next man up is, you know, the most used phrase in the NFL. But Mike is one of one. And so how do you and Grizzard work together to figure out what replacing Mike looks like when it's not like you have another Mike Evans? And even when you have great wide receivers in your room, the body style is different, the game is different. How do you work to adjust to try to make up for, you know, what I'm sure is a lot of game planning for Mike?
Right. That's right. And, well, you mentioned it. You're not going to replace Mike ever. You know? But the thing is that going into each week, the only thing you can do is say, hey, man, look, this is what we got, right? And then, and whether it's personnel, whether it's scheme, whether it's what they do versus what you do, you say, all right, man, this is what we got. This is what we can do to try to attack those guys. And within that, let's do a really good job of making sure that we're putting the right pieces in the right places, so that not just those guys can be successful for where we can be successful as a team and offensively, obviously. So, and I think that because the pieces have changed so much, I mean, we've kind of gotten used to having to do that. But at the end of the day, whether Mike's there, whether Mike isn't, you know, that you still have to do that with the pieces that you got, right? And having a guy like Mike, it was kind of different just because you really didn't know how people were going to play him until you got out there on Sunday. And so you knew they were going to have a plan, whether it's going to put two dudes on him or whether their best corner was going to follow him or whatever the case may be. So, you know, you may have a little bit less of that going on. And truly what you see on film is what you have a better chance of getting, because sometimes when Mike was there, you might see something that they've done all season, but they were going to have a little bit of a different plan from Mike. So you had a little bit of, like I said, a little less that going on, but other than that, you kind of game plan for what you have and try to put those guys in the best possible positions. What
have you seen about the ways that he and Chris both have tried to help the young guys coming in, and the way, especially knowing that the stereotype of the wide receiver position, a little diva-ish, maybe not so willing to help the young guy coming in, and they, of course, are just not that in any way, shape, or form. And what have you seen about the intentionality each of them have taken while they've been injured to try to help those young guys?
Man, those guys they're just wonderful people, and I say that every time I get asked about them. They're just they're great examples for everybody of what you should do. The impact that you can have on people around you, the attention to detail that they bring every single day, and they're extremely bright, and they do a really good job right now, like you said, of communicating. So they might come off the field, or they in practice, or when we're in meetings, and they see stuff, and whether it's good or bad, those guys are the first guys right now, man, that say, hey, man, good job, and hey, you could have done this, or just whatever the case may be. But those guys, just being there to support those guys, it's invaluable. It's invaluable, and when when they played at the level that they played, and still able to maintain that goes to show the true value, man, that those guys are to the organization. But and they just continue to show it, and no matter what the circumstance are, man, they continue to show that.
All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to wide receivers coach Bryan McClendon. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to wide receivers coach Bryan McClendon. So we talked about losing Mike and the challenges of that. What was it like for you watching Chris come back from the injury last year, just the work he put in, and then watching him get hurt again so quickly, of just what it was like for you as his coach, and then watching the way he's approached both of those injuries?
It was great to get Chris when he was coming off of a year that he had previously gotten injured the year before that, if that makes any sense. So he had gotten hurt, played a season, and then I came in, and then just he knew just all the stuff that he wanted to change, things he wanted to tweak as far as the off season, just to make sure that he was going into that following season as good as possible. So I'm saying all that to say Chris is a very intentional person. Every single day, he has a purpose for what he does, why he wants to do it. And me and him communicated thoroughly through all of that. So we put together a real good plan, and it was pretty intensive, but of just all the work that he put in going into last season. And to see him start off the way he did and the season he was having, it was just really gratifying for him, just because he had put in so much work, so much thought, so much time, so much everything. And he was getting, the fruits of his labor were truly going out there. And then obviously he got hurt, and so you just feel devastated for somebody who's worked as hard as he did to go out there and then have the success he was having, and then just come off, and then you kind of are done because of an injury. But you knew Chris was going to go, and he was going to approach that same offseason the exact same way. And so that is what I appreciate the most about him is, he's able to compartmentalize things and be able to move that focus and say, hey man, this last year was this year this is kind of where I am. All right, so now, man, it needs to be along these lines. And so, it's been really, really good to be able to kind of go through that process with him. You hate the circumstance that you had to do it, and same thing. So when it circled back around to where it was time for him to go back out there and play, it was exciting just to have him back out there. It was just kind of like a security blanket of just going out there, and felt like you get another coach on the field. You really do, when you're out there and you're watching him on the sideline. And so obviously, man, you knew, I could tell something wasn't right, when he was going out there and the leg was bothering him, the end of that Seattle game. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, are you okay? And he was just like, yeah, I'm good, which was obviously,
the most Chris thing ever.
No doubt. And so, to come to find out,
I feel like he could be missing a leg completely, and he'd be like, I can hop that route.
And so, and he finishes the game, and and immediately afterwards, man, that was when, you know, we all got the news kind of that he may have to miss a little bit more time. And so, but you know, he's been approaching this time the exact same way he did the off season, and with
man
the
knows how to rehab.
Absolutely, man, and just you know, and through those injuries, I think it's helped give him a real perspective on that, you know, and understanding that. You know, you have to lay these benchmarks out in front of you each day, and let's go out there with the right purpose and the right attitude, and let's go out there and attack those. And he's done a great job of that.
We're talking to wide receiver coach Bryan McClendon. So let's dive a little bit more into Emeka. I want you to tell me about the draft process, when you remember watching tape on him, when you learned he might actually get to be yours. Yeah. Just tell me you must have been the happiest human on draft day of anybody.
Well, I got to take it back even further. It was COVID year. I leave the University of South Carolina and go to the University of Oregon. And it was late. It was like around May-ish. And so the demographic of the people that you recruit, it changes kind of, you know, with where you are a little bit too. And I remember watching this tape when I was at the University of South Carolina when he was in high school. And I thought then, I was like, man, this is the best guy in the country. I really did. I thought he was the best receiver in the country. And so immediately I get out there and I tried chipping away. We were way behind over there at Oregon. Obviously, he ends up going to Ohio State and having the career he had there. But, you know, that was my really first introduction to him. But, you know, when starting recruiting him, then you knew he was a special kid in terms of just the questions that he was asking, never caught up in any of the hype or any of the stuff, any of the flash that people try to throw at him. I mean, he was all about the substance, even when recruiting him as a young kid. And his parents have done a great job with him, mom, father, and the stepfather. I mean, all that, they've done a great job with him. And I remember talking to them, you know, then. So when it circled back around, and I'm like, all right, you know, this, you know, there's a chance that I get to watch him again.
Third time's the charm.
Absolutely. And so when you watch him, you see all of the same stuff. You saw the ability and everything else. And obviously, man, I kind of had a little bit of history with him as a person. And so as soon as we walked up, and then at the combine when we were interviewing him, it was like, oh, I mean, it was good to kind of get, you know, kind of see each other again. And, you know, it was the big hugs, and, you know, we visited with him then, and then, you know, after we visited with him, and I was telling everybody in the room, I'm like, Lou, it's gonna feel like you're talking to a 45-year-old man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just got it together. And so, and when he walked out the room, he had everybody floored. He really did. And so, just with the impression that he left with everybody, and so I mean, you kind of don't know, you know, the different things and everything else. But, you know, I sense when we were getting back close to the draft that there was a chance that, you know, if he was there, we were going to do it. And so I'm sitting up there, I'm like, fingers crossed. I'm like, man, man, I'm like, just don't take him. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm up there and I'm just thinking, the good Lord, every team that's not taking him. And then, so when it came around, I mean, it was just like, you hit the lottery, you know, you just hit the lottery. But like I said, not just with him as a player, you knew the person that you're bringing into the organization is just top notch. And so, I mean, it's just hard to bypass somebody that has the ability that he has and who he is as a person. You know, you feel like that's another reason that he's always going to be a special player, just because he's always going to be able to maximize every inch of ability that he has in his body just by how he's made up.
Yeah, so I do feel like we hear so much about his makeup, his maturity, like who he is off the field, and it contributes to how good he is on it. But what are maybe some of the true X's and O's or details that make him a good wide receiver so quickly? Absolutely.
Well, just throughout, I mean, just overall in general, when you're speaking about being good offensively, you have to be explosive. So other than turnovers, getting explosive plays is probably one of the top 2 or 3 factors in winning or losing the whole game. You know, in the NFL, defenses are too good just to go 10, 11, 12 plays right down the row and you scoring every time. That's just very unlikely. It is. So you need explosive plays right now, man, to be able to win games. And so that was the first thing that you know that he gives you the ability to do, not just catch the ball and make contested catches, but also once he has the ball in his hand, he can make plays once he has the ball also. So Though, so you saw that, and you saw his natural ability to be able to judge and track the football. I think that baseball background, I mean, he just has an uncanny ability to be able to go up and catch the ball, regardless of who's around him, and the body position to be able to do that. He has really good balance and body control, and like I said, I mean, his ability to be able to accelerate and get in and out of breaks. I mean, I think he was really well coached. I think he's worked extremely hard to be able to, perfect the small stuff right now in route running. And I think, like I said, just he's very, very coachable. So if it's like, hey, this is what you need to do, this is why you need to do it, and he understands why, and he understands all of that, man. He's one of those people that can get it done.
I love it. We're going to take one more break here on Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. We're talking to wide receiver coach Bryan McClendon. This is Buccaneers Radio. Welcome back into Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. Time for our final segment here with wide receiver coach Bryan McClendon. So talked about Mike and Chris and Emeka. I want to dive into the rest of your room because, boy, the rest of your room has had to step up in some big ways, and they've done a great job of it, and you've done a great job with the room. And so let's talk about Tez. First of all, love this dude. How fun is Tez to coach? And tell me, same thing kind of with Emeka I know you just missed him at Oregon, it sounds like, which is such a bummer. But what did you learn about his time at Oregon and just watching him in college and then that made you guys say, this guy could really contribute?
Yeah, no, it was eerily similar when you watch this tape in terms of what you saw. Now, the styles and everything else were different, but you just saw his ability to be able to create explosive plays in a number of different ways. And so I just feel like as many guys as you could have that can do that, obviously that ups the chances of you getting them when they're here. So you saw him make explosive plays, and they got it to him in a bunch of different ways. And so you knew he was smart enough to be able to learn all that stuff, and then he's very, very football savvy. In terms of just really gets what you're trying to do out there, man, when schematically and understanding why. And he's very, very and he's very, very eager, and he's the same way in the classroom. And he is just trying to do everything he can do right now to learn it. Me and him, we have our special meetings and everything else over there to make sure, man, that he has stuff down. But and he's an extremely hard-working kid. And so, and the same thing when we got a chance to meet with him over there at the combine, you were like, oh man, this is he's a great kid. He's a kid that's gonna fit great in any room. And you were just hoping that it was our room right now that he was gonna be able to fit into.
Tell me your reaction when you learned about the MVP chant, him thinking it was for him.
Well, it did not surprise me. Okay, it was about par for the course. When it came to that, and it was just super funny. I remember. And it was one of the other coaches showed it to me. Showed me the little clips of it, and I just shook my head. I was like, "But that's him. Yeah, that is truly him."
He and Shep just seemed like a little Abbott and Costello.
They need their own
show.
We
need to make this happen.
They do.
That's what I asked Emeka.
They'll make a lot of money.
Yeah, right.
Those two would make a lot.
They would make a lot of money. I asked Emeka, I'm like, "You're so serious all the time. Like, what makes you laugh? What makes you silly?" And that's what he said. He was like, "Those two." And he said, "In y'all's room, it's just a hoot."
It is, and you have to. I tried when we first get in there. I kind of let them get it out. Then I'm like, all right, let's go. It's time.
Like the toddlers you're babysitting. Exactly, like, all right, run around.
Right, yep. And then now, all right, man, let's snap it in. Let's snap it in. It's business time. And,
I love that.
And you got to do that. But all those guys are good, and they're great, and they're able to. Hey, when it's time to do that, it's time to do that. And when it's not, and when it's time to get serious, let's get serious. And they do a great job of that.
We're talking to wide receiver coach Bryan McClendon. So what are the things with Tez that you're working on that you want to see him improve on that could take him to that next level?
Well, I think not just him, but just all those guys. I think, just being very, very detailed in his route running, very detailed right now, man, in everything that we're doing. When it comes to splits, with foot's up, type of release we're taking, the depth of this route, where you need to be on the field. Just all this stuff. I think not just him. That's something that you got to do a good job of as a coach to make sure all the guys right now in the room are doing that. But that is something that I'm constantly on him about in every practice, every walkthrough, every game. And so and he's doing a great job of eating all that stuff up.
Watching the way that some of these young guys have been so ready when they've come in, I wondered if you have so much experience at the college level, do you feel like that's helped you help guys come in to understand that transition that needs to happen?
I think just having that college background, you're used to having to teach a certain way. Mm-hmm. You're used to having to teach really from the ground up of every little thing. And so sometimes they get on me because they say I'm kind of too detailed and I'm always, repetitive in this, repetitive in that. But at the end of the day, I'd rather be repetitive and know that they got it, right? And then assume and then just say it once, right? So, that's just kind of my detail. It's kind of how I'm wired in this thing. I come from a family of educators. Mom was a teacher and everything else, man. So I see this as an opportunity to teach, and so I try to do it in every aspect, So I make them write it down, make them stand up, make them walk through it, make them tell it to me, make them teach it back to me, whatever I got to do, whatever I got to do. And so just making sure I cover all the bases, because everybody learns different also. And so making sure that I'm hitting all the areas right now that those guys learn, and like I said, man, just not assuming, because it doesn't do much good if I know it and they can't go out there and do it, right? It's what they can go out there and do and what they feel comfortable going out there doing. And those guys, I say it to them all the time. If I'm 1,000% sure I got a slant route on this play, then that gives me the best opportunity to run the best slant route possible. But if I go out there and I'm 50% sure, I'm probably not going to run a good slant route, And so just making sure that they're sure, because that gives those guys the confidence to go out there and play well and play fast and not have to think, not have to worry.
I know that in addition to Tez, recently Cam Johnson also had to step up. We had the Johnson & Johnson show that 1 week. So tell me what Cam Johnson's done well and what you're working on with him.
Sure. Well, Cam has a bunch of ability, and we were really excited about Cam last season. As a rookie, not many people knew about him, and it was one of those things that he just kept showing up every practice. And so we were really excited about, being able to keep him and have him around, because you saw a bunch of stuff that he was doing already, and then he was hampered a bunch by injuries last season. And so it's just been good being able to and he's just been showing what he's been doing right now, man. Now just been able to stay healthy when he does it. So Cam's done a tremendous job of having a routine every single day to come in, make sure his body's right, make sure he's taking care of his body. And he's another one of those conscientious, people that just, think about everything he does and why, and just applies it, and he's able to apply it. So, it's been really, really good to see him have some of the success right now that he's getting.
I know Sterling Shepard, it's just been so cool to see the way he's gotten this whole part 2 of his career here, where came in thinking he's just maybe going to be a practice squad guy, let me just be here for my guy Baker, and then now stepped up in some really big ways. What is, at this point in his career, what are the things he brings as both just like a vet and what that means, but then also what he's actually doing X's and O's on the field that can really benefit the whole offense?
Well, the thing that makes Shep here being unique is you said it, he's had a bunch of experience before he's gotten here. And he's the type person that doesn't mind saying, hey, look, guys, I tried this and this did not work. You know what I mean? Or, hey, man, I found out that this works even better. And so he's done a great job for those guys and understanding it of, hey, man, look, I didn't listen to the old heads when they were saying this, but you guys make sure, man, that you're going to get in the ice tub or whatever the case may be. So just his wealth of knowledge through the experience right now that he's gotten has been great. And so, and also just understanding that he's here more than just being a mentor. And he's here, man. We're going to depend on him, and that you got to be at your best every single day. And so that, that's something right now that I feel like he does a really good job of. Also gets here super early, make sure his body's right and everything else. And shoot, he's the oldest guy in the room and has missed the least amount of time, right? And so, and I think that's a true testament to him and just the routine and everything else right now that he does to take care of his body too.
And then I know going against DBs in practice is so important for getting your room ready. So tell me both from the idea of just going against a Coach Bowles defense in preseason to get y'all ready, but then specifically the vets like Jamel and Zion, and then even these new guys, Morrison, Parrish, and how they've looked. How did you see that make your guys be more ready, and what are some of the things that stand out about the corners that we have on this team?
Sure. Well, to answer your first question about Coach Bowles, you go into the season, and I tell these guys this, we should have all the confidence in the world, because there is nothing that we'll see out there on a Sunday that we hadn't seen in some way, shape, or form over there going against Coach Bowles' defense, because he throws a lot at you on purpose, and he tests all your rules, whether it be protection rules, coverage adjustment rules, just everything. And I mean, and obviously, man, he's done it at a high level for a long time and seen a lot. And so the thing is, man, that gives the guys confidence. Like, hey, man, look, if we can get these checks and everything else right versus this defense, man, then Sundays during the season should be a breeze. But so just schematically, that part of it, it stresses you out. And so you have to do a good job of adjusting and growing through that, which I feel like is awesome. And then, like you said, just the natural competition that you should get versus the receivers, DBs, but shoot, not just those guys, but understanding that you got Vita and all those other guys rushing the quarterback. Hey, man, you can't take forever in your route right now, man, because it's going to be a sack. So just going against the whole defense in general. But the DBs, obviously, man, I feel like, man, they do a great job of the whole iron sharpens iron thing. And and they do a great job of communicating with the guys too. Hey, man, look, I know you were going to do this because of that, and I make those guys have conversations with the DBs just to make sure that hey, man, go ask them what they saw. He jumped that, man. Hey, Zion, come here, man. What'd you see on that route? What made you jump that? And so just having constant communication right now with those guys too. But those guys have been great teammates for us, and I think that just that. But that's the whole culture right now that coaches built. And just knowing and understanding, man, hey, man, we're going to go out there and compete against each other, but we're going to help each other right now, man, when we need to. And, on Sundays, man, we all together.
Well, Coach, thanks so much for taking time with us, especially on the bye week. We really appreciate it. And congrats on doing a great job with a room that has dealt with a lot this year and getting these young guys ready to go. And just can't wait to see what it'll look like with all the people and all the weapons at your disposal. Hopefully so. All right. Well, Coach, thank you again so much. Thanks to all of you guys for joining us. This has been Buccaneers Total Access, brought to you by Advent Health. This is Buccaneers Radio.